Hey, so in this video, I want to talk about high ticket coaching. A lot of people ask me about this subject, and I'd like to dive into this and explain what it is, what it looks like, and how a business can be created doing high ticket coaching. Now, my name is Matthew White, and we help coaches, consultants, and experts through a 3-phase system that we've developed. We call the Coach Launch Formula to help build equity, trust, and control so that you can build a world-class business that gets to $100,000 per month that you can run and it doesn't run you. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about 4 very cool things, right? First of all, we're going to talk about defining high ticket coaching. We're going to define. Number 2, we are going to talk about the equity or how to create value to sell high ticket coaching. Number 3, we're going to talk about the perfect clients because you need clients, the right types of clients, and clients that have got the money to pay for your high ticket programs. Otherwise, it can be a disaster. Number 4, we're going to talk about a secret formula that we're using right now that's helped to create 4.2 million in revenue, right? This is going to be at the end. So we're going to cover all of this in this video, full of information, lots of gold nuggets. So stick with me as I work through this, and we're going to add heaps of value in this video. All right, I want to talk about one of our clients. His name is Michael. Michael did work in retail. Now, as we all know, retail has gone through a major shift over the last few years, and there is a lot of variations and changes and things that have happened. Lots of businesses closing down because of the advent of internet. A lot of companies moving towards e-commerce websites to drive their business. However, Michael was working in a retail store and making good money as a retail manager and was doing pretty well. He enjoyed his job. Then one day he gets called into his boss's office, and his boss says to him these words: "We're going to be moving most of our stores to online. We're going to be closing our stores down, and we're going to be going to create more e-commerce." This was devastating to Michael because he needed the job, and anyway, he enjoyed what he was doing, and the loss of this job was very frustrating. As a matter of fact, that day when he had finished and he'd gone on his way home, he ended up crashing his car. He rode into the back of somebody else's car and caused a lot of damage. And this wasn't good, right? You can imagine. He goes home, his wife is upset that he's lost his job, he's crashed a car. There's a whole lot that's going on there, right? He was very stressed and annoyed at this time. There was so much going on for him. He was feeling lost. He was trying to get another job, but because retail was such a different landscape now for him from when he first started, it was a lot harder for him to get into that type of role. So he had to make some changes. He had to think about what he was going to do to move forward and create revenue, right? To have money coming in so he can support his families, pay for his bills, all that type of stuff. And Michael came to me for advice. He wanted me to help him with his business because he knew what we did. And this video that I'm going through is basically the guidance and advice that I gave to Michael to help him get into a successful business and build himself a world-class coaching business where he now has surpassed $100,000 a month. He is in a really cool sector, and I'm going to explain all of that and show you how this all came together. And he is making a huge impact, right? And he's staying in line with his skills, and he's created something of huge value that when this all went to pieces for him, never thought he could actually accomplish. And this is how the journey went. Now, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to this channel so that we can provide you heaps more value, and you can learn more about all the cool free stuff that we teach about in the Coach Launch channel. Awesome. When Michael first came to us, we had to go through the steps that it takes to build a world-class coaching business. Now, this is super important. So first of all, we're going to go through, this is step 1. And when Michael started with us, he had a whole different mindset. He was out of whack. He wasn't focused. He wasn't clear. He didn't understand. He was second guessing himself, and he had all this doubts and fear of failure and all this stuff going on in his life. And I needed to get him on path, and we had to talk about the clarity, his path. And so we created a focus plan for him, right? And this is one of the key ingredients that we help our clients with because it's super important to have clarity, to have focus, right? Now, he knew he wanted to build a business and make that 100K per month, right? That was a good goal for him. I mean, he didn't think at the time he was even going to accomplish that. Thought that it was way out of his reach because he'd never done this in his life before. And so when you've never done this type of thing, it can be overwhelming, or you think this couldn't be possible for a lot of people. But if you stick with the process and you stick with the system, it's definitely possible. And now, what a lot of people go through, right? We needed to define what coaching meant to him, what this all involved and entailed, and where he was going to end up. So the path was really straightforward, right? He was struggling to get ahead of things, to pay his bills. He was worried about the income that he didn't have and what he was going to do going forward. Now, he had enough money to support him for a period of time, and he had money to invest in building a business. It wasn't a lot, but it was some that he could work with. And so what I said to him is, we got to understand that this journey is straightforward, but he has got some limiting constraints, right? And we need to create a roadmap for him to get to where he wants to go and have that life of his. But here's the thing, and a lot of people struggle with this, right? That fear of failure. That fear of failure, not being able to put yourself out there, or you're worried about things are going to go wrong, or you're worried about imposter syndrome, or you worry about whatever things that go on internally that you need to deal with. And if you can't deal with this, it will pull you down. And fear of failure is one of the most debilitating internal constraints that holds most people back, right? Fear of failure comes with a whole lot of packaged things like imposter syndrome, worry, all these kind of things that'll pull you down. And on the other side of it, now that he was at home, he had his kids around, there was things going on in his life, and he was getting distracted, and there was things that were pulling him off path. Now, most of that distraction comes from the people that were in his life. People were saying to him that he shouldn't start another business, or he shouldn't do a business. He should just go and get a job and be stable and be secure. But he didn't want to do that. He wanted to go from where he was to there. And he knew that if he wanted to make a huge impact and have the life that he wanted, he needed to stay focused on this, right? And I was helping him understand what he needed to do to stay focused. And he needed to deal with this, and he needed to deal with this. And I said to him, you need to work on your environment. First of all, your environment. Right, the environment around you. So how would you set yourself up? What does your life look like? You need to have a place that you can do business in that's going to create clarity and focus so that you can stick to this journey. We had to work on some internal stuff, how he was thinking. We had to work on some more internal stuff, how his emotions were. Whereas he was very emotional and he was living in a highly charged emotional environment that wasn't doing him much good. He had to help himself really to get reconnected with himself so that he can deal with that. Then finally, we had to work on what tasks he would be doing every day to stay on path so that he could build his high-ticket coaching program. Now, I know this hasn't got anything specific to do with high-ticket coaching, but the reason why most people fail to build a business or to have success in the high-ticket coaching space is, number one, they're not focused. And dealing with all of these things mostly stops people in their tracks. So if you're not addressing the stuff first, you're going to always hit barriers. You're always going to be stuck, going around in circles, never actually achieving your goal. Because as soon as you get pulled off here and you spend weeks going off track, then you're starting all again, and you're starting all again. And if you keep starting all over again, you're never going to get to build a successful business. In the beginning, he's told me that he hated retail. He didn't really want to do retail going forward. But I had a discussion with him and we worked through some stuff, which I'll talk about in a second. But first, we needed to know who he really wanted to serve. And I painted this clear picture for him so he could understand what it was that he wanted to do and the quickest way for him to get there. Now, when it comes to high-ticket coaching, depending on what segment you're in will depend on what's the top level of package you can charge in that space. Now, there are exclusions to this rule, but the rule of thumb will say that you've got a life and mind, which is down here at the bottom, and there's a really big segment of that. And a lot of people, personal development, want to improve their mindset, want to get better in their own self-worth, all that kind of stuff. So there's a huge segment of it. But the upper level of price point for this is probably between $5,000 to maybe $3,000 in this segment here. So one of your segments is life and mind. The other segment is wellness, right? Wellness is losing weight, getting fit, helping kids with ADHD, families, parents. There's a whole segment in wellness, and in this area, when it comes to high ticket, your upper limit is around about the $5,000 mark, give or take, and that's where you're going to kind of be capped at. Now, there is outside the rule, but for the most part, that's kind of the upper limit that you're going to be able to charge in this wellness space. Then the next layer up is the performance space, right? Performance is the section where you're doing productivity, you're working with executives, you're working with high performance people that want to improve, get better, build wealth, that type of stuff. And you can go anywhere, up to from 10K to say around about the 15K. You can go higher, but it starts going into the upper level, right? So about 15K is the average, 10 to 15K in the performance space. So if we go from here to here, 0 to 100K packages, then right at the top here, right, this place here is reserved for business, right? Business, you can charge anywhere from the 10K mark all the way up to 100, 150K. I've seen people charging up to 150K in the business space for packages. When you're looking at it from an overall perspective, there are caps in certain levels, right? And it all depends on where you want to play. So if you're down here, you're going to have a lot more clients. There is a lot more to choose from. There's also a fair bit of competition, but there's a lot more to choose from, and you can have a lot more clients in the space to kind of compensate. Whereas up here, you'll have less, like if you wanted to make 100K per month, you're going to have less clients, right? You only need one client a month if you're at this space. But the level of expertise you need up here is far superior to the level of expertise you need down here to deliver that. So this painted a clear picture for Michael, and it gave him an understanding of where he really wanted to be. So he knew he wanted to be in the upper level. That's what he was aiming for. And I think a lot of people want to be able to do this, but it really is a personality thing. I prefer working up in this level and sometimes in this level, but there's a lot of people that like working in this level. It really is a personality thing, and you can make money in any segment, but right here at the top, this is where the big dollars are spent on performance, right? Now, in this is also an age group factor, because from the age of, I'd say 28 or maybe even 30 years of age, all the way to say around about 55, just prior to retirement, this here is the money age, right? So if you're somebody that's focusing on really wanting to do this high ticket stuff, like really high ticket stuff, your age group demographic is between that 30-year-old to about 55-year-old. That's where the money is. Those are the people that have money. People below that are typically in this space here, right? Personal development, building, and wellness. But when you get into the performance space, these are people that have got the money to spend, right? Executives, people that have been in business for a while, people that have got good jobs, that type of thing, and want to do better in their lives. So just understand that. So when you're focusing on selling to high ticket, there's also an age group to consider, as well as the level of different segments that there are to dive into. Now, I said to Michael, all right, you want to get into that space. What is it that you're going to be providing? And we had to look at this component. Skills, such a critical component to having success in the high ticket space or in any business, right? Especially when you're leaving a job and you're looking for something new to get into. A lot of people have this idea that passion is a bigger driver than skills. And I say no, you need skills. Skills will drive you to a better place, a better result than your passion. Most people that follow their passion end up going nowhere. It's a fact. The data proves that. There's a ton of research around this, that passion doesn't build success. Skills build success. Skills can build passion, and that's what you need to be focusing on, what we call the craftsman mindset. If you become a craftsman, you become so good at something, eventually you become so good at it that becomes a passion. And so Michael wanted to go down some path that was his passion. And I said to him, if you want to go down this path and be this passion that you want to follow, what's going to happen is you're going to start doing this thing, and now you're starting from scratch. So you have to build up all your skills, all your resources, and you need to start working this whole thing over again. That means it's going to take you double the time to get to somewhere where you get somewhere quicker if we start tapping into your skills. And so when we look at skills, there's 4 core components of this, right? There's value that you currently have. So you have skills already. These are the skills that you provide already. Like for instance, in my career, when I was doing high-rise construction, I learned skills that were inevitably helping me in building a business. This was being able to manage and build systems and to drive and motivate teams, and have teams working around me. So that was one of the big values that I brought to the business. And those skills were skills that I developed over the years. Then the next part of the skills are skills you have to learn, right? I said to Michael, you're going to have to learn stuff, right? There is no way you can build a business without learning. So you need to start thinking about that. And that's one of the reasons why he came to us. He understood he needed to add value to his knowledge base. So learning is important, and it's ongoing learning. We now spend more than $260K on training and education over the last 10 years. You never stop learning. Learning helps you grow faster. So you have to have a learning component of this. The next is outsourcing. Outsourcing is a vital component, right? Where you're hiring teams, where you've got virtual staff, whatever that is, you need to outsource. There are skills that you're going to do, right, that you don't want to do, that you need to pass on to somebody else. So stuff you can learn and do, or stuff you can learn and outsource. There's stuff that you already know, that you're good at, which you can also add more learning to it and outsource. And then finally, the last skill component is partners. They play a vital role in your skills capacity. There's people, businesses out there that already have a whole lot of skills, a whole lot of knowledge and capacity to fill in gaps. Like for instance, in our real estate coaching business, we had a lot of clients coming down the pipeline that wanted to have custom built products, and we weren't builders. And I went down the path of looking to getting my builder's license, and the time it would take and the energy and effort that I would have to put to doing it, even though I had the skills and the knowledge and the capacity to do it, I was like, why, when there's all these builders out there that I could just partner with? And so we found a partnership that we could join partners with, and we would just create a commission-based structure. So we would send them the clients and the projects would get created. That was a really good outcome. So once again, starting with skills, he had to have certain skills that he was going to have, because he needed to create value in his business that surpasses and something that he could have that's unique to drive the business forward. Then whatever was missing, you'd need to learn it. And then for the stuff that was onerous and repetitive, he needed to think about the skills that he needed to outsource. And then finally, what areas or partnerships could he connect with to drive business and keep missing gaps that he had moving forward, so he had a revenue base, right? So this was super important. So now we understood where he wanted to be, what skills he was going to provide to his market. So what happened was, when he came to me, he wanted to follow his passion. And I said, well, here's the thing. Like I said before, if you start doing something that you're passionate about, it's going to take a lot longer and it might not work. So you're putting a huge amount of risk. Your family's at risk. You're not thinking about this clearly. Let's look at what you can do from the skills that you have right now. Is there anything that you can connect with that's going to drive you forward with what you have right now? And so him being an expert, or he had experience in retail, I said, let's start here. Let's look at retail and what that means and see if there's any components that we can work with. And so we did a lot of research, keyword research. We had some surveys go out and we asked a lot of questions. Well, he did most of the work, but I guided him on what he needed to do. And we slowly figured out that there was some very unique segments in this retail space that he could tap into. There was some lucrative stuff that he could think about doing that would be really viable for him. And after a long while, when I say long, probably about 6 weeks, we locked onto this one segment, right? Which was super viable. There was a lot of demand and there wasn't many people servicing this area. So it jumped out at him as something that he could kind of get his teeth into that aligned with their skills. He had a network of people, he had experience, he had knowledge, he had backup of education, and all the things that he needed would align specifically with this little segment in the retail sector. And it was unique, and I'm going to talk about what that is in a minute. But after taking all this into consideration, he now had this idea of what he could sell, that he could create packages between 25K and 60K, which is where he wanted to be. Now, we still had to formalize all of this, but this is a kind of, from the research that he did, he figured out he could get this type of outcome from the process, right? Because there was businesses that wanted his skills, and they would be prepared to pay high amounts of money to make that happen if he could deliver on the promise. So, going back again, he had to start thinking about what that process looked like. Now, the next stage that we had to go through, right, this is stage 2, is he needed to create some equity. needed to work out what the value was that he was going to ultimately provide. This is the formula that we have, right? We work with our clients to create something of unique value that they can stand out in the marketplace and create processes and systems that people will want to spend money on. When you can do this the right way, this becomes the heart of your business, and it drives everything. And it's super important because your product, program, your signature service, your signature deliverable is everything, right? And when you get this right, it allows you to really be a unique commodity in the space. And so when we're creating equity, there's many layers to this, but ultimately it's a signature program that you can really call your own, right? All right, so when it comes to creating equity or having a signature program, all of these things come into consideration, right? You got your label, you got your ingredients, you got your package, and you got your dosage. These are the key elements to creating a high-ticket coaching program or service. Now, there's a lot that goes into it, and I'm not going to explain all of this right now. You can watch one of the video that I have that's around about over here. That's about creating your signature program, and it's a very detailed, in-depth video about how to create the right signature program. But all of these components are part of creating a high-ticket package. Now, this is one component of it to creating your equity. All right, so what we did is I needed to speak to Michael, and we needed to work out what his deliverables were going to look like. How is his business going to be set up that he's going to be making money from? And ultimately, these are the ways to deliver, right? There's agency, there's systems, there is consulting, there is coaching, there is training, right? These are how you can help your clients in the high ticket space. There is obviously the done with you model, and then done for you model. And then there's hybrids, and then there's obviously training. So how did he want to create value? Because at the end of the day, when you're doing training has got the lowest value. So this is low and this is high. And understanding that you can charge more in this space, but there's more effort involved in doing the thing, putting the thing together. Whereas down here, the lower cost, but it's easier to put these things together. And after a long discussion and working with him, he really decided that he wanted to be around here, right? And this was where he was going to be able to create something between 25K and 60K to deliver to his clients. What this meant was he didn't want to do agency. He said that doing an agency was too onerous, which it is. A lot of cost to drive an agency. He was interested in coaching, but he wanted to do coaching more as a consultative type of environment. So he wanted to help, which is probably both of these, coach and consult his clients to get to that next stage. But this is where he wanted to be. So systems, for instance, like McDonald's, franchises are systems, something you can license. And then consulting, right? Consulting is showing people, helping people, telling people. And coaching is more like trying to get people to do the thing. You're helping them, you're providing guidance, that type of thing, right? So anyway, he ended up being in this space where he wanted to create systems and be kind of consultative, coaching type environment. And he liked that because this is where he could really add value, using his skills, using his network, and being able to provide something of value. So that being said, he now works on that. We were very clear about what he needed to do. So he was going to have to build a system that would work. And he had the capacity to do that. He had the backup and the knowledge and people around him that could help him do that. So he was in a really good spot. Then we needed to work out with him what it was that he was ultimately selling. What was this magic formula going to help people achieve? What were they going to get out of this ultimately, right? What was his beautiful signature package going to do? And this is the key ingredient to high ticket, and it's for any business really, especially in the consultative space or coaching space, is that ultimately we're not selling the thing. We're selling what the thing can do. And even though this message gets spun around so many times, I still see so many people trying to sell the thing instead of selling the outcome. And maybe because it seems hard for some people, or they don't have confidence, or they don't understand what the outcome is for their product. But ultimately, the outcome is what makes you your money. What are we selling? Are we selling freedom? Are we selling autonomy? Right? Are we selling wealth? we're selling? Confidence. We went through this whole kind of process, which we do with our clients, to work out what the value was that he was selling. And after a bit of backwards and forwards, he decided that this is what he was selling. He was selling profit and security. So his product that he was putting together was going to make his clients profit and provide security, in that the businesses would be able to continue to grow and make a profit. Now, let's talk about what he was doing. So he decided that he wanted to be in the retail space, and he wanted to create, his magic formula was this. He wanted to help retailers that were stuck and were losing money by losing foot traffic, right? So they were going, there's zero. The zero was here, where they were losing money and the foot traffic was reducing, right? And they were worried about what they were going to do about this and how they could make more money and have profit, right? And this is why a lot of retailers were going down this path of setting up e-commerce or starting online rather than having these brick and mortar businesses. And so what he realized was that with his skills and the knowledge and the processes that he was putting together, he could help these retailers, right, become online enabled, and he would be able to help them triple revenue in 21 days, and they could keep stores and stock. That was his hook. This was his magic formula. He was going to help retailers that were struggling to get clients become online enabled, right? Helping them set up e-commerce stores and making those e-commerce stores more viable, that they could have triple their revenue. That means they could get more reach, and he could set the system up within 21 days and they'll still be able to keep their staff and their stores. How amazing is that? Now, how he would do that was he had to create the steps, right? So we worked out what the steps would need to be for him to make that happen. And there was a whole lot of things, right? For instance, e-com. How is he going to set up the e-com store? And then there were systems and training staff to be more adapted to that software so that they could work together, making sure that all the important products and items in a local area were always going to be in stock so that people could go and pick up at the stores. It was a very powerful model that he put together, and it's really gone gangbusters. Because a lot of people want to order stuff, right? But they're not prepared to wait ages for it to get shipped or posted or delivered. They want to go to the store and pick it up straight away. And so especially with store owners that had multiple stores in multiple areas, it made great sense. So people could just drive and pick up. This pickup component was a huge, huge uplift for being able to do this, having the retail stores still surviving. This made a huge difference. And so they charged extra for the pickup, and this added more revenue to the business. It was huge. So, and also because of this, and say he was in one town here, and there were satellite towns around the area, he would be able to sell to these satellite towns for all these retail stores, and people would drive and pick up their stuff quicker, rather than waiting for shipping or postage, which might have taken a few days. It's crazy, right? And he's done super well with this. So that was his whole process, and he was able to get to a point of making a profit. Now, the last thing we needed to get very clear on before he got started at the point was this, right? Perfect client. This is very, very important. Now, I see a lot of people making a mistake with this when it comes to setting up or building their businesses. Because if you don't know who your client is, you don't know where they're hanging out, you don't know how to get them, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity. And you're going to make big mistakes, right? You need to know who your perfect client is so that you can have the capacity to drive better business, to get better conversions, to have better success. This is a fundamental component that I see a lot of people making a mistake with. And so we went with Michael through a process of discovering where his clients were hanging out. And it turns out that mostly they were on YouTube, Google, and ultimately he knew their locations, right? Or could find their locations. So he had these avenues. This was the core areas where he could find his clients. Now, there's obviously many more places that he could have gone. I said to Michael that he needed to be focused on a small section where he can get started, right? And we knew the keywords and the areas that his clients were looking at that we could target, the websites they were going to, all that kind of stuff. It was really dynamic. So it helped to lower the cost and make it an easier entry, because YouTube and Google right now are the biggest platforms, and to be able to tap into that is a huge advantage. And so we focus mostly on YouTube to do our marketing. but you can also have the expansion of Google, and then there's locations, right? But here's the thing, you have inbound, right? Inbound marketing, which would be from these two here, and that is marketing coming in, and then there's outbound. This means that you're going to reach out and speak to somebody and try and get them to do business with you, right? Now, I spoke to Michael, and one of the things he said was he didn't have a lot of time because he had a lot going on. Plus, he was building his business. He was putting a lot together, and we needed to figure out a formula for him to leverage his time efficiently. And he had some capital to spend on ads, right? And he was very clear that the ads were going to help him drive better results. He would look at this down the track once he was getting going, but for him, straight off the bat, spending money on ads was going to leverage his time more, and it was going to get him a better ROI because he knew where his clients were, he knew how to attract them, and he knew the messages that we're going to attract them with. So everything else became really much easier. What happened was he started doing all this stuff, he started getting set it up, and we started getting clients down the funnel. But we had to do it incrementally. Now, when you're building up your high-ticket business, right, a lot of things in the beginning, when you're getting started, you might already know, you might already have a high-ticket coaching program, I don't know. But there's iteration, right? You're always cycling through and improving. So when you start on the journey, you're going to start at a point where you think is the best suited for you. But as you start spending money, things will improve, right? You'll see nuances, you'll see changes, you'll see improvements, and you'll make changes and shifts to adapt to that. When you're in the high-ticket space, the journey of a client from start to when you make the sale is like this. First of all, there's curiosity. Curiosity is the first starting point. You need to be in front of them multiple times, and they need to start getting curious about who you are. You need to be showing up a ridiculous amount of times in front of them for them to be curious about taking the next step. It's nuts because there's so much competition and noise out there. The next layer they got to be is you've got to start getting them interested. Once you've got them curious, they're going to come down the next path, and you've got to get them interested. That means you've got to show them information that takes them to the next step to make them want to take action. But even though they might be interested, one of the biggest missing components that most people lose out or forget about when it comes to selling online, which is the component that you need to work on the most, which is probably one of the most important things, is trust. Trust is pretty much everything. That's your money, your ROI. The more trust you can create, the more trust that people have in you, the more business you're going to do. So once you've got them curious, you've got them interested, you have to then build trust. Now they trust you, they see that you can do the thing, you've got to get them to the next level, which is desire. And desire is that component where they actually make the decision to want to work with you. That's the action. This is the journey every individual takes online to get to the point where they're making a purchasing decision. Trust is logic, desire is emotion, right? When you can have these two working together, it makes selling a lot easier, and the sales process becomes more enjoyable. You then have people coming down your pipeline, and instead of having to convince them, they've already convinced themselves, and they already want to do business with you because you've made the process simple, you understand them, you've spoken their language, and it's just a whole clear process. So you created clarity, and this whole journey has created a pathway that there's just no reason for them to say no. You become so good at what you do, you're just standing out, right? Because they've followed you through this process. So Michael went down the path of setting up his process, right, to get clients in. He knew where they were, what those perfect clients were, and he also knew which clients he did not want to work with, which is also as important as knowing who exactly you wanted to work with. Now, his avatar, right, was a retail owner, somebody that owns maybe 1, 2, 3 retail stores, and they're concerned about getting enough clients into their business. And so there were certain components that he needed to really validate: the size of them, the location, the revenue, the staff, how much staff they had, the industry they were in. So these components paid a huge impact on how he was going to serve them, because he didn't want to serve people that, say for instance, in the revenue, right, they weren't making enough revenue and their profit was so bad that they just weren't going to survive, right? There were people that he had to turn down. If their staff weren't the right amount, there weren't enough people to support the change or the growth. He had to think about that. Certain industries really didn't work for him, so he had to be careful of the industries. And in the beginning, he was stuck with location because he couldn't do international at the time he was starting. He has now developed a system to do virtual, but at the beginning the location was a constraint. And then size. He needed to have at least 2 retail stores, preferably 3 or more, for it to work. So these are the constraints. And also certain things he didn't want to have, right? He needed to know who he didn't want to serve as well. And I can't remember offhand who he didn't want to serve, but who he did want to serve kind of fitted in that category. Okay, so we covered a lot so far. Let's keep going. Now, we're going to talk about a model that works really well. And I've kind of covered that already. But here's the thing. This is the secret to a system that's working really well right now. And it is what's helped us create more than $4.2 million in our businesses. And this is section 4. Now, the key ingredient to having success with high ticket coaching or consulting is speed to lead or speed to sale. Most people these days are constrained with time, and the pressure of time is mounting. No one wants to spend hours going through webinars, going through long drawn out sessions of trying to understand stuff. And most people just turn away these days if there's any hint of something taking too long. And so you've got to be mindful of this. If you're going to have clients coming down the path, you do not want to draw out that pathway. You want to get them into your process as quickly as possible. Now, I said you're going to have curiosity, interest, trust, desire. All those things are going to be necessary to build. But ultimately, you want to get them to a sales call, right, as quickly as possible. You only need one page where you need to create the trust, and you need a calendar page. That's a calendar page. Those are the key core ingredients. No webinars, no all that fancy fluff. When you're selling high-ticket stuff, it's a faster sales process. If you're selling low-ticket stuff, I find that people might spend more time buying that type of thing. But from my perspective, I used to do the low-ticket stuff. I used to have lead opt-in pages. I used to do all that type of thing. But I found that as soon as I removed all the fluff in the beginning, it just made everything super fast. And so we have social media, we have social media presence, and we're very big on social media, building up the social media presence and getting out there through paid ads. Then we have what we call a targeted ad or a sniper ad. This is what works really well. So one sniper ad and lots of social media, and we call these butterfly posts, which we build up this whole audience. What this looks like is we're warming up our leads through a process where we've got all of our social media, and these posts are going out all the time, and we're boosting these posts. We're spending money on this content, and it's going out, going nuts, right? It's warming up our audience. It's bringing them closer to where we are, right? And the people that get closer here to this point, we then target them with a sniper ad. Our sniper ads are designed to only target people at the right time, at the right moment, so they're ready to take action. This is one of the most cost-effective ways that we've found to do high-ticket marketing. It's super efficient. You're building up trust through all of these touch points. People are getting lots of touch points all over the place from you. You don't need a lot of shenanigans and stuff going on. You just send them to a sniper ad, right? You're ready to, this is where they get interest. And then you send them to a video page where you're building trust. And then on the sales call, right, you're then building the desire. And we have a process for all of that, and it works super well. So you don't need a lot of extra stuff. The only thing is that you need to do social media. Now with social media, a lot of people freak out, oh, I don't want to do posts. I don't want to do all this stuff all the time. Hold on a minute. It's actually very simple. Social media is very simple. And when you're prepared to spend money on social media, it helps to amplify the results. So instead of spending a whole lot of time doing social media, what you need to do is you develop a system. And so we have a system that we've developed to create an ongoing stream of content where you'll never run out of ideas or things to talk about, because we've made this formula very simple. And so we've created this, what we call an infinity board. It's actually an Echo Trust infinity board. And in this infinity board, you have so much content that we help you create that you'll never run out of things to talk about, because we've made it very specific around the specific topics. And so every time you're creating content, you just drop the ideas in your little box here, and then you can shoot away and do your content. Super easy to do, it's very fast, and you'll never run out of content. That's all I can say about that. So having a trust system, this is what I use all the time. And it's amazing how easy it is just to come up with content because we have created a system. And when you do that, and you can start pushing out social media the right way, and you can just do video after video and creating content after content, because what we do is we're using AI, obviously, right? There's AI component to this that makes it run a lot quicker. But coming up with the ideas, the initial part, and then putting everything through a process, it becomes super powerful. So this is one of the leverage points that Michael has used to really accelerate his growth. And he's gone from really doing nothing to accelerating his profit in no time. He broke through a profit barrier within about 6 months, and he's doing exceptionally well now. And it's been a game changer for him. So we've gone through this process with him. He's doing really well. His whole life has changed from following these steps. Now, this video that you're watching talks about high-ticket coaching. This video here, this next video, go and watch this. This is about how to create your signature program. It's very helpful. It goes into depth about creating the program and what you can do to create your own high-ticket program, right? Very informative. Now, that's the next piece of the puzzle. Now, if you want to work with us specifically, go ahead and click the button around this video and catch up with us. If you want to launch a business or if you want to scale a business, we've got the tools, resources, and systems to help you get there. So go ahead and click the button and catch up with one of our team, and let's get you started. My name is Matthew Watt. Thank you for joining me on this video, and I'll see you on the next one.